The story begins with 16-year-old Juliet from the vampire family. She is almost at the age where she must make her first kill, yet she still takes blood pills because she has not hunted anyone herself. Since she has not tasted real blood, she is not considered a complete vampire. Her mother Margot is a powerful vampire while her father Sebastian is human. Her sister Eleanor is bold and deadly, and she lives proudly as a true vampire. Juliet wants to be like her. However, tension always exists in the family because Juliet has not proven herself yet. At school, her best friend Ben has been with her since childhood. They once dated, however later they understood themselves better. Ben likes boys and Juliet likes girls, yet their friendship stayed strong. Juliet keeps noticing a new girl named Calliope. She wants to talk, yet fear holds her back. Ben encourages Juliet to initiate a conversation with Calliope so she can get to know her. By chance, they bump into each other, and after some awkward words, Juliet invites her to a party, and Calliope agrees since it's one of her first days here, and she really wants to make some friends. Later, Juliet touches a silver bracelet left on the floor, and she instantly feels a shock and her hand burns badly because vampires cannot handle silver. At home, her happiness fades as her family reminds her that without her first kill, she will become a danger to everyone. Now the problem is clear. Juliet has to take someone's life. She has to kill. However, deep inside, she has very soft feelings for humans. She does not like the idea of hurting them, and she definitely does not enjoy violence. Because of that, she has never killed anyone and she has never tasted real blood. So she still does not carry the true vampire mark, and her family keeps getting angry at her. Then Eleanor steps in and says it is fine since Juliet is going to a party tonight, so she will help her get ready. Their mother tells Eleanor to explain everything properly. So Eleanor dresses Juliet up and keeps sharing stories about her own first kill. At the same time, she notices Juliet smiling and she understands there is a girl involved. Juliet admits she likes Calliope, although she does not want to kill her. Still, Eleanor keeps saying once she makes her first kill, all her hunger and pain will calm down. At the party, Juliet goes with Ben. People are dancing and drinking, however Juliet only looks for Calliope. Soon they play a spin the bottle game, and by chance the bottle lands on Juliet and Calliope. They take a shot and walk away together. One thing leads to another and they kiss, they get close, and in the heat of the moment, Juliet's fangs come out and she bites Calliope. Suddenly the twist hits. Calliope pulls out a dagger and kills Juliet. Then we see Calliope's side. She is new in town and her family protects her a lot. They belong to a vampire hunter family. Her parents and brothers Apollo and Theo all train to kill monsters. They move from city to city and follow strict rules. At a graveyard mission, Calliope fails to make her first kill because she gets scared, and her brothers save her. At dinner, everyone talks about their kills and marks their hands proudly. Yet Calliope has no mark. Later it is revealed she can smell monsters. She had already sensed something strange about Juliet. She had dropped the bracelet deliberately to confirm if Juliet is a vampire. The party meeting was her plan to get close and be sure. For a moment she liked Juliet, however. When she felt the bite, she reacted as a hunter and tried to kill Juliet. Meanwhile, Juliet dropped to the ground with a dagger still stuck in her, while Calliope slipped away from the party as police flooded the place. She barely managed to hide and escape, and at the same time the lights inside suddenly went out, so chaos spread fast. When the lights came back, Ben noticed a body right at his feet. It was a girl with a brutal head injury and her liver was gone and blood covered the floor. A strange girl stood nearby with a creepy smile, and before Ben could react, she vanished. Meanwhile, Calliope hid inside a bus and checked herself for marks. However, everything looked normal, as if nothing had happened. Back at Calliope's house, strange noises echoed through the halls. So her mother Talia grabbed a dagger and Apollo and Theo followed. They found a monster inside and attacked without hesitation, wondering how it got past their security. At the same time, Juliet was still alive in the middle of her own mess. Even with a dagger in her chest, she kept going, then slowly pulled it out and healed fast while police swarmed outside, so she chose to stay hidden. Later, Calliope had a nightmare where her mother told her to hunt a monster. However, the monster turned into her own mother, and panic hit instantly. Elsewhere, Eleanor visited the hospital to check the murdered girl and discovered missing organs plus a head wound. Then she used her power and wiped the doctor's memory so he would forget the girl was still alive after the attack. Soon, Calliope's mother tested her skills by asking her to repeat the move she once used on a vampire. Calliope pulled it off without hurting her mother, and this proved her control, while also confirming that the vampire she killed before was different, which explained why the body never burned. Juliet returned to school after healing. However, anxiety followed her because she still had not killed anyone yet. Ben asked if she would attend the funeral that evening. She wanted answers first, and once Ben explained everything, she agreed, although confusion stayed because she and Calliope had been together when the murder happened. After the funeral, rumors spread everywhere as people questioned who did what. Meanwhile, Eleanor showed Juliet's file to her father and painted Juliet as cruel even though she had erased key memories. It was clear Sebastian did not trust Eleanor much because her actions were always unpredictable. At the same time, Apollo and Theo visited a hunter for advice after bringing home a strange monster object. The man warned that moving it would attract monsters. Meanwhile, Calliope drifts into a strange dream and it feels like she is walking inside a quiet forest, and Juliet is already there, waiting like she knew she would come. They can hear each other clearly and even feel each other's thoughts, so the connection feels real. Calliope admits she still does not understand how they are linked. However, Juliet calmly explains that the bite tied them together and asks her to trust it. Calliope slowly agrees because Juliet feels different from other monsters and somehow more human. Then suddenly a snake appears near Juliet, and the mood shifts fast. Juliet grabs her sword and tells Calliope to run and save herself, and right then, Calliope wakes up at home. Back in reality, the house feels tense because everyone is training. Apollo and Theo keep sparring again and again while the family watches closely. Apollo keeps winning, however, nobody praises him since he caused trouble by stealing a monster object before. So now Theo is chosen for future missions, while Apollo stands on the side and takes the hit quietly. Soon a cousin joins and the sparring continues, and the whole place feels like pressure building slowly. Meanwhile, Juliet searches the house in panic because she cannot find her pills, and she has not taken blood in days. Her hands shake, and her thoughts spiral since her first kill still has not happened. She rushes into the kitchen and finds Eleanor, then begs her for the pills. Eleanor stays cold and reminds her that without her first kill she cannot truly belong. Juliet gives in and takes the pills, and Eleanor warns her not to repeat Oliver's mistakes, but instead move smart and survive. Soon, the family prepares for a huge celebration meant for Juliet's first kill. However, Juliet feels far from ready. They try dress after dress, yet nothing feels right until the grandmother walks in. She is the clan leader, so her presence alone shifts the air. She looks proud, yet worried, because Juliet feels too human compared to others. Juliet slips outside to meet Ban, which annoys the grandmother. However, Eleanor promises she will keep an eye on her during the ritual. Outside, Ban and Juliet argue since she refuses to join his investigation. At the same time, another storm brews at Calliope's home where Talia argues with her husband. She refuses to let Calliope join missions because she still sees her as a child, and after a long back and forth, he finally agrees to keep Calliope safe for now. Later, Juliet studies old books and prepares for the ritual, and Eleanor leads her to a girl chosen as her target. However, Juliet cannot do it because her bond with Calliope keeps pulling her back. Eleanor explains their legacy and how generations built this vampire line while blending with humans, yet Juliet still struggles. The family reminds her that she already has gifts like walking in sunlight and living close to humans, so she should accept what she is. Juliet still hesitates, so Eleanor sends the girl away with money and tells her to return later. Meanwhile, Calliope's family gathers for a massive strike since many vampire tribes will unite soon. The plan feels huge and dangerous. Then, everything flips when her father learns that Calliope might refuse to fight. He reveals what he heard, and shock spreads across the room. Talia confronts her while Calliope realizes someone twisted the truth. She loses trust in her sister and tries to explain she is still loyal. However, doubt spreads, and nobody listens. Elsewhere, Juliet grows weaker from pressure, so Eleanor hands her a full glass of blood and tells her to drink slowly. The warmth steadies her, but the fear remains. The ceremony begins, and Juliet hesitates until Oliver appears and tells her she can walk away if she is scared because he wants her safe. At the same time, Calliope faces her uncle, who tries to twist her feelings against her. However, she fights back and breaks free. Juliet decides she will help her, but suddenly hunters crash in and everything explodes into chaos. Sirens scream and alarms burn through vampire senses, so panic spreads instantly. Calliope tells Juliet to run and survive, and just like that, the night falls apart as everyone scatters into the dark. Meanwhile, everyone was running for their lives because the monster hunters had launched a brutal attack on the vampires, so silver spears were flying everywhere, and many vampires were already dead, while bodies kept falling one after another, turning the battlefield into a nightmare. In the middle of this mess, Margot and her husband Sebastian were badly wounded because Calliope's parents had attacked them, but since they were legacy vampires, they had stronger powers. So after some time, Margot managed to get up and tried to help Sebastian rise too. Meanwhile, Calliope's family realized that the situation was out of control and understood that these vampires were not going to die easily, so they needed to retreat fast, while at the same time the cook who had attacked Calliope reached the house again and tried to kidnap her. He covered her mouth and dragged her away, but but Juliet sensed something was wrong and that Calliope was in danger, so she rushed back immediately and reached just in time. Together, they fought the cook until he was finally beaten, and they thought he was dead. But now, a new problem appeared because they had no idea what to do with the body, and Calliope was still shaking in fear. Meanwhile, Eleanor and Oliver arrived and killed the parents of Calliope's friend, while soon after Apollo captured Oliver and dragged him home where he was chained with silver. But even after heavy torture, Oliver kept healing, which made everyone furious because nothing seemed to kill legacy vampires. At the same time, the vampire party was turning into panic, but Juliet's grandmother tried to calm everyone. Juliet and Calliope then went to Ben for help because he was the only one she trusted, and when Ben opened the car trunk, he found nothing at first, so he thought they were joking, but suddenly the cook appeared alive again and attacked, which is when Juliet lost control and made her first kill by using her claws to pierce his throat and drink all his blood while Ben watched in horror. For Calliope, this was normal, but for Ben it shattered everything he believed. Meanwhile, Sebastian kept getting worse, and Margot tried everything to save him while fear was spreading everywhere. Eleanor rushed to her grandmother and begged her to save her father because Sebastian was barely alive, but the grandmother insisted on leaving because she knew if she stayed, someone would force her to help. Eleanor offered a huge sacrifice by agreeing to marry into the powerful vampire bloodline her grandmother had always wanted, and finally the grandmother agreed, letting her save her father. Soon, Juliet, Calliope, and Ben were dragging the body into the woods, trying to bury it quietly, while Ben kept suggesting tricks from crime shows and the girls struggled with the weight. At the same time, Sebastian was weakening fast, and Margot kept asking him to drink her blood so he could survive a little longer. Eventually, the grandmother arrived with the serpent guardian and told everyone to leave while releasing it onto Sebastian, who surprisingly absorbed it into his wound, shocking everyone. Meanwhile, Juliet and the others almost got caught hiding the body because some classmates appeared suddenly, so they quickly lied saying they were mourning a friend to avoid suspicion, while Apollo and Theo continued torturing Oliver, who still claimed he did not know where Calliope was. Both families then decided to meet because the conflict had grown too big and they needed to find their daughters. Back at the party, Juliet and Calliope talked about Juliet's first kill and realized they had saved each other despite being enemies, while Calliope understood that since the bite, their minds were connected and they could even meet in dreams. Just when emotions rose, Sebastian appeared fully healed and forced everyone to go home, but something felt wrong because his eyes looked strange and venomous. While driving, a terrifying girl appeared in front of the car, causing Calliope to run and Juliet to follow as Oliver asides in disorder. Juliet and Calliope were running as fast as they could toward their school because they needed a safe place to hide. Yet all the doors were locked, so they could not get in anywhere. And of course, going home was not an option because chaos had already taken over there, so they had nowhere to turn. But then Juliet gathered all her courage and smashed a glass to open a door, so they slipped inside, changed into their sports clothes, and started talking while trying to figure out where Juliet's new power was coming from. And she told Calliope that she did not really know. She just felt the need to protect her whenever they were together, and no matter what happened, she would always try to keep her safe, which made Calliope admit that there had always been a connection between them, through the dreams or the bite, and that Juliet would never harm her, making everything feel real and close between them. Then they wandered around and reached the school theater where they could spend some quiet time, and Calliope asked Juliet about her likes and dislikes, and eventually the conversation reached food, making Calliope pause because she realized Juliet was a vampire and wondered what she actually ate. And Juliet explained that blood was necessary, but before she used supplements to survive, and now after her first kill she felt calmer and more in control. So they shared many things while the night passed and even slept there together. And the next morning, Juliet's phone was full of messages and calls from home telling her to come back, so they both knew that they would eventually have to face their families. But for now, they decided to stay together and spend the day at school, knowing their parents might not agree. And they called their mothers, who were upset, but eventually accepted that Juliet and Calliope were together, even though one was a vampire and the other a vampire hunter, and the girls promised to be careful. Meanwhile, Eleanor was getting ready at home in beautiful clothes, guided by her grandmother, who taught her how to behave and speak within the vampire family. Yet Eleanor only agreed to the marriage to save her father and gain power, and Margot arrived to explain what Eleanor should do. But Eleanor calmed everyone down and took control, making sure all decisions were hers and promising to maintain the family's legacy, and she prepared to be the next keeper to hold the highest rank in the vampire hierarchy, while everyone swore to protect the family and its future, so mistakes would not happen. Back at school, Ben and Nova argued because Ben wanted honesty, while Nova refused to choose. And during their fight, a picture clicked on Ben's phone, which got sent to Juliet and Calliope, and when she saw it, an alarm went off like a monster warning, and she showed it to Calliope, who immediately realized a monster had entered the school with dangerous eyes. And meanwhile, Eleanor and her grandmother dealt with visiting vampires trying to claim power, while Margot met her ex-fiancé and forgave past regrets. And Eleanor monitored her father's health while entertaining a boy from another clan politely. Juliet and Calliope discovered the monster roaming the school, so Calliope broke glass to grab an axe, and they went to hunt it, only to see Nova killed brutally by a zombie-like creature which shocked them. And Eleanor struggled with her legacy and the responsibility of becoming keeper, agreeing to plans for future children despite her anger, while Calliope managed her first kill against a monster, but got scratched, making Juliet panic because she could not control herself seeing Calliope's blood, yet Calliope calmed her, saying she would not get hurt. Eleanor ran to her father Sebastian to stop her marriage, but her grandmother slapped him and reminded him he had no right to interfere, shocking him as he started transforming into a monster with green eyes. And meanwhile, Juliet and Calliope carried a monster's body that started turning to ashes. But Juliet lost control seeing Calliope's blood, and Calliope grabbed a tree branch to stop her, reminding her of her promise not to harm her, and told her to calm down. Then, Margot arrived to get her daughter and discovered Sebastian had killed her mother, a powerful vampire. Yet she realized her mother had too much control, and she told Eleanor to declare the marriage would not happen, which made Eleanor happy to become the future keeper, while Margot calmed her husband, understanding his drastic changes were for the family. Finally, Juliet and Calliope faced a new threat as Oliver appeared with a monster girl from the party, needing a ritual using human blood. But Juliet stopped her from harming Calliope, explaining the monster would not hurt her, and asked Calliope to step back for safety, leaving Juliet alone to face her brother, monster girlfriend. Talia was taking her daughter Calliope to school while scolding her, telling her to stay quiet and not speak to anyone, so they could leave Juliet's attention quickly, because soon they would leave the city, and the news had already spread that a student had been killed at the school since in the last episode, Nova was brutally killed by a monster, and Juliet and Calliope had been caught on camera. So now the police were questioning everyone while Margot had been called too. And as everyone went through counseling and questioning, Margot stood up insisting the police had no proof or warrant and they did not have their lawyer yet, and she was only trying to protect her daughter, while the officers said they just needed cooperation and no one was being arrested, and both girls were seen going down the stairs while everyone else stayed inside, and there was no footage from the place where Nova died. So Margot warned that her husband was the DA and could get them removed from their positions, which made Juliet explain that she had heard Nova's screams and ran to help, but it was too late, while Calliope firmly said she had not seen anything because her mother told her to stay quiet. Yet outside, Calliope wondered if people would suspect them, and her mother told her not to worry because they would leave the city soon. And then Nova's girlfriend was interviewed, crying that she wished she could have saved him. Meanwhile, Juliet walked ahead with Calliope following, and though their mothers wanted them apart, they stayed connected, which Margot and Talia discussed, knowing it would be hard to separate them. So they decided to meet their families in Margot's office and reminded each other to leave weapons behind. Then the focus shifted to Theo and Apollo, watching news that all the city mothers had gathered to hunt monsters, which worried Apollo, but Theo cared more about the missing cook. Then Talia arrived angry, explaining how Calliope got involved in the school murder case because of her connection with Juliet, and she insisted on performing a family separation method, which was necessary to remove the venom inside Calliope from being bitten by a legacy vampire like Juliet, and Theo would carry it out safely by giving Calliope a drink to make her unconscious, then using a silver liquid and chanting to remove the venom and create antibodies, with Calliope scared but trusting, while Theo remembered old memories of his mother dying by a legacy vampire, and after the procedure, Calliope felt uncomfortable, but survived. Later, she secretly went to Juliet's house at night, and they spent time together talking and relaxing, still connected despite the separation. And finally, a gift appeared at Juliet's door with leather snake print shoes, which she assumed came from her sister, but Eleanor arrived explaining it must be their mother and it was the school holiday. Today was a good day because tomorrow everyone would wake up late, and Juliet did not feel like going to the party, but Eleanor insisted she needed to learn a lot, reminding her she was a legacy vampire and a mark. So many things were still new and important, and Eleanor promised to teach her. Meanwhile, Xenia was not feeling well, and Apollo tried to join a city group for all the mothers against monsters to collect information, but he could not enter alone. So Calliope was sent to get ice cream and helped him with a password, which was actually the name of a drink, since it was Ban's mom's group, and she already knew everything, making Apollo happy. Elsewhere, Ban met his mother, and Xenia focused on Ban, trying to understand what his mother was doing, and he explained not all monsters were bad, and some lived peacefully with humans. and Bunny told him he was still young and had not faced monsters yet, but the team would protect everyone. Then Juliet and Eleanor arrived at the party, and Eleanor made Juliet drink a lot to loosen up, and soon Juliet started dancing, enjoying herself, and Eleanor pointed out a bachelor who had been left alone and suggested having some fun with him. So Juliet followed Eleanor's lead, and they lured the boy, drinking his blood until he died, and Juliet was shocked because she had not meant to kill. But Eleanor reminded her this was their duty as vampires and part of the legacy. Then they disposed of the body in water and kept the boy's ID to track history, and Juliet cried, but Eleanor reassured her that it was normal for legacy vampires. Later, Juliet went to Ben's house and they talked about options to turn her back into a human, spending the night together and calming each other, staying close because even past separation methods could not divide them. The next morning, they continued discussing that no matter what happened, they would remain close while Nova's girlfriend mourned him with friends, and her dog dug up the same cook who had attacked Calliope before, and they buried him together, while Margot and Sebastian saw them vandalized with red paint. The body of Cook had been found, and the investigation started everywhere while the police took it out, and Sebastian cleaned his house carefully, trying to remove any trace of monsters or anything dangerous that could cause trouble. At the college, the police came back to question students, starting with the 5 who were at the party that night, or had been there when they first raided. And everyone gave different statements, noticing strange things, but no one really knew who to suspect. Nova's girlfriend said she was not at the party and could not remember who invited anyone, and one boy saw Juliet and Calliope together, which made suspicion fall on them too, while Ben stammered at first but answered confidently, so no one pressed him further. Then Calliope came forward, complaining that everyone always suspected her, and the police confirmed the blood inside Cook's body was completely drained, meaning it was likely a monster. Outside, all the parents gathered, shouting they would not let their children study at the school and demanding all students be removed, and counselors tried to calm them down, saying the monsters would be found soon, but the parents were furious, thinking the police were not doing enough. Juliet felt worried because Ben's mother led everyone and motivated them repeatedly, yet Juliet was not questioned because she was the DA's daughter. Juliet and Calliope talked quietly, realizing someone must have killed Cook, and soon everyone understood a vampire was behind it, and Calliope insisted Juliet should go home where her family could protect her. But Juliet laughed, saying her family were monster hunters and would attack her immediately. Calliope reassured her that her family would not harm her, and they needed to trust each other. At home, Apollo brought Theo to a secret chamber only parents could unlock, but Theo knew the lock too, and they called a hacker to trace erased memories to find who killed Theo's mother. Talia packed all the guns quickly because they needed to move fast, and Calliope explained to her parents why Juliet needed protection from the vampire hunters outside. She admitted she killed Cook, but Juliet took the blame to protect her, and the parents understood that Cook tried to kidnap and imprison Calliope, so they calmed down and accepted the truth, while Apollo and Theo reviewed videos trying to understand how legacy vampires worked. And meanwhile, the Guild Club arrived unexpectedly, checking for illegal activity, confusing Talia and Jack. But they let the hacker finish the job. Talia spoke to Apollo and Theo, asking their plans, while Juliet was still missing and trying to escape safely. Juliet and Calliope were about to leave when they realized police checks blocked the roads, so they could not even turn the car and had to stop. And a police officer was checking all vampires with pure silver, which burned Juliet badly, even though she was a legacy vampire. To avoid suspicion, Calliope quickly drove forward, telling the officer they were just dropping Juliet off, and the officer agreed, but followed anyway, because neither girl wanted to go home. Meanwhile, Talia sat Theo and Apollo down, asking their plans, and Theo finally opened up about being adopted and how his mother was killed by a vampire, and Talia comforted him, telling him he could always talk to her, and explaining the danger to the family if he did not handle things carefully before leaving with Apollo. Outside, Theo and Apollo waited near a club, with Apollo insisting on handling the meeting alone, and inside tension rose when Eleanor got angry at them for trying to question her, leading to a fight where a silver dagger almost hit her, but she avoided it and erased everyone's memory. Apollo had lost all his memory, so he had no clue what happened to Theo, and Calliope froze in shock before fainting because he could not explain anything. Both of them were crying hard and did not understand how Theo could be dead while their hands were covered in blood, so Juliet told them they had to leave right away before things got worse. Calliope and Apollo washed their hands, and Juliet cleaned all the blood and any evidence that Calliope could touch, making sure nothing was left behind. Then Juliet noticed a lipstick on the floor and recognized it belonged to her sister Eleanor, so she kept it but suddenly heard a heartbeat. Since vampires can hear the faintest sounds, she realized someone was nearby. Meanwhile, Apollo and Calliope reached home, their clothes soaked in blood, still crying and confused. But Apollo said he would take full responsibility because Theo had been with him. Suddenly, the twist hit. Theo was at home sitting with the family eating dinner and talking like nothing happened. Calliope and Apollo froze because they had just seen him dead, and Theo started feeling weak before heading to his room. Inside, he felt intense pain as the dagger in his body slowly healed him while he transformed into a vampire. Juliet went to Eleanor yelling while showing the lipstick, and Eleanor asked why Juliet defended the boys. Juliet argued that Eleanor's brother was nearly dead and Calliope had been in danger, but Eleanor did not care, saying killing was killing no matter the reason, and she hit Juliet's hand, calling her useless. Juliet stayed furious, but knew she had to handle her sister carefully. Calliope's parents, Talia and Jack, told her she could not go outside or use her phone, and she agreed easily because she only thought about her brother who was seen dead and was now alive. Juliet was angry because Eleanor killed Theo without hesitation and began planning how to deal with her sister. Outside Theo's room, Apollo and Calliope watched him badly injured, bleeding from his eyes, nose, and mouth as the vampire transformation took over. Jack and Talia asked questions, but they had no answers, and just admitted they did not know how Theo came back alive. Jack feared he might have to fight his own son, so Calliope was sent upstairs while Eleanor faced police questioning, refusing to talk until her lawyer arrived. Oliver appeared as her lawyer, smiling and telling Eleanor her family would not save her, making her realize she had been abandoned. Meanwhile, Juliet worried about Calliope, who cried because she thought her brother was dead. Talia warned Jack he could not harm their son, and finally he agreed, while Sebastian worried about Eleanor, but Margot stayed calm, knowing her jail time would be short. Apollo tried to remember but only saw Eleanor, then everything went blank. Theo, now bloodthirsty, attacked Apollo, who cried saying he deserved it, but Theo remembered Apollo was his brother and let him go before escaping. Juliet arrived, taking responsibility and telling Calliope to calm down so she could talk to Theo about the struggles of becoming a vampire, the thirst, and irritability. Theo drank from Juliet to calm down, but Calliope went crazy yelling that Juliet had made her brother a vampire. Juliet explained Theo had asked for help and she only wanted to save him, not turn him into a monster. But Calliope refused to listen and told her to leave. Finally, Talia decided to take care of Theo personally, working with Jack, hugging him, and promising him love while Apollo cried. Theo, the son of vampire hunters, was now under Oliver's care, learning to survive among vampires, monsters, and powerful beings, and this is where the story ends.